Gather around, please. We're about to get started. I'm State Representative Nima Kulkarni. I want to thank you all for being here on this beautiful evening. We're going to start out with a moment of silence, and that is going to be directed by Judd Hendricks from the Interfaith Paths to Peace.
Good evening, and thank you for being here. We pray with many different words and in different languages, and we can all do that as we take a moment to be present in silence. We've learned through Zoom that our hearts can expand over space and time. And so what we'd like for you to do in this moment of silence is to not only open your mind, but to open your heart to our Asian community here all over the world, and especially to those families of the victims in Atlanta. We have lit 8 candles in remembrance of them. So in silence, pray in your own language. Pray to the God that you know, or sit in silence and open up your heart to send love and grace and blessing to our brothers and sisters around the world. Let us take a moment of silence. And all God's people say, amen, and may it be so.
Thank you, Judd, and thank you all from the bottom of my heart for being here. We are gathered today to honor the victims of the shootings that occurred near Atlanta on Tuesday. 9 people were shot that day, and 8 were killed in this horrific act of violence. 6 of the victims were Asian American women, who the murderer specifically targeted for his rampage. Today, we honor the victims of yet another instance of senseless and devastating gun violence. Elcias Hernandez Ortiz, who was severely injured. Delana Ashley Young. Paul Andre Michels. Dai Yu Feng. Xiaoji Tan. Hyun Jung Grant. Young Ai Yue, Sun Chung Park, and Sun Sha Kim. We are here to offer our condolences and support to the victims of the families and communities that were impacted. We are also here to stand in solidarity with the Asian American community in Georgia against bigotry, against hatred, and against violence. We are here to stand in support of our own Asian American neighbors here in Louisville and throughout Kentucky. These killings occurred at the intersection of racism, misogyny, and xenophobia, against the continuing backdrop of the epidemics of gun violence and violence against women. We must remain vigilant because these are not mutually exclusive. They do not exist in a vacuum, and there is no justification that can excuse the taking of a life based on hatred. We are privileged today to have several leaders here from our Asian American community, and we will hear from them shortly. I want to point out that we have a message station towards the back where you can write messages of support and solidarity to the victims of the families and the communities in Georgia who are grieving today. We are also fortunate to have with us many members of our interfaith community and many other community organizations who have generously helped to organize today's gathering. I'd like to thank the Kentucky Chinese Association, the Korean American Association of Kentuckiana, the Crane House, Interfaith Paths to Peace, the Center for Interfaith Relations, our Metro Office for Globalization, the Ali Center, Colectivo Latinx, Louisville Showing Up for Racial Justice, the Salam Network, Sowers of Justice Network, and Moms Demand Action. Today, we want to center and lift up the voices of our Asian American brothers, sisters, mothers, fathers, neighbors, and friends. I would like to start by inviting Congressman John Yarmuth, who has always been there whenever and wherever our community needs him, and who stands with us always on the right side of justice.
Thank you, Nima, and thanks so much for putting on this event and standing so strongly for the wonder of diversity in America. You know, one thing politicians, if they've been around a while, and Reverend Elliott knows this as well, we end up a lot of times preaching to the choir. We all know that expression. And to a certain extent, that's what we're doing here this afternoon. We're preaching to the choir. But there's a great value in preaching to the choir.
Yeah.
Because what we're seeing now in this country is something we all need to be preaching about and against. You know, bigotry did not start last week in Atlanta. It didn't start when Donald Trump took office. It didn't start when the internet was developed and Twitter came about. But it sure has gotten worse. It's gotten more vicious. It's gotten more brazen since all of those things occurred. Just an example, in the last year, since the pandemic disrupted our lives, the incidence of hate and bullying directed at Asian Americans online has increased by 900%. 900%. 9 in 10 Asian Americans have said they have been the target of some kind of hate and bigotry. It goes a lot farther than saying this is unacceptable in this country. We know it's unacceptable. The question is, what do we do about it?
That's it.
And I'm not sure. I don't think any of us is really sure how you change minds and souls, how you eliminate hatred from people's hearts. But the one thing we know we can do is consistently offer support to those who are the targets of this kind of vicious hatred. And I think that's what we can resolve ourselves to do, is support those people who are being targeted. Make them know that there are far more people who love them and are on their side than those who suffer from a sickness that we can't understand. So I think back over the last 10 years or so, 12 years or so, when I've been serving, and all the times we've met after incidents like we saw in Atlanta last week, whether it was the shooting of the synagogue in Pittsburgh, whether it was the Charleston church, whatever it may be, the mosques that have been vandalized and Muslims targeted. We've all come together as a community and said this is not acceptable. We need to keep doing that. And we need to make sure that those who manifest this kind of sickness and this kind of hate and bigotry are not in the mainstream. They're not part of the human spirit, and they're not people who are welcome in our communities, in our nation. So once again, thank you all for being here today, and let's resolve once again, for the much too manyth time, that we're going to push back against this kind of bigotry and hatred in our country. Thank you.
Thank you, Congressman, for your words. Next, I would like to invite Mr. Yang Li, representing the Chinese community.
Well, thank you, everyone. So here I'm the vice president of the Association of the Chinese American in Kentuckiana. But here also I'm kind of speaking for myself as a member of the Chinese American community and as a member of the Asian American community here. So I think what happened in Atlanta first is a huge tragedy. I just wanted to say that we're all saddened by this mass shooting. And I would like to offer our deepest condolence to those who lost their families and their friends. So I think this event is not a standalone random event, unfortunately. Just like the senator just said, over the past year, we've seen increasing amount of hostility towards Asian Americans and Chinese Americans. And we've been increasingly feeling unsafe. So this should not have been happening. For example, many of my friends who never touched a gun in their life since they grow up had to buy a gun or even think about buying a gun just to make sure that they're safe in their own house. And we started the alert group in the social medias just to make sure that we know what happened to each other in case something happened. So all of this should not have happened, but they're happening. So, and a lot of this is unfortunately motivated by the politically motivated propaganda or misinformation or scapegoating, whatever you wanted to say about it. And but if you think of what we are, we're just like everybody else in the community. We work hard in our work, in our jobs. We're trying to be good neighbors, good friends, good parents. We're helping building up the community, and we're just like everybody else. So even during the pandemic, a lot of us, probably many of you don't know, is that a lot of us, since we're like Chinese Americans, we have our local connections with our Chinese friend. So many of us that I heard actually utilize their own resources to try to get personal protection equipment to get them from China, and then send it over to the local community to help with the health workers and the frontline workers. So that's something, just one example of what we're trying to do and what we've been doing. But unfortunately, we're feeling increasingly unsafe every day. Like, for example, I wouldn't take my family to downtown for dinner recently just because of what happened. So I think this is something that we have to stop together. I think politics should not speak for our conscience. It should not speak for how we treat our friends and others in the community. I think we need to work together and work hard just to make sure that we don't accept any forms of discrimination or any profiling that's based on racial perception and hate crimes and scapegoating. And with that, I think that's everything I wanted to say. Thank you very much for the opportunity here, and thank you.
It's always a problem because I have to adjust the microphone for my height. Thank you, Mr. Lee. Next, I'd like to invite Hana Yoon, who is representing the Korean American community today.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Hana Yoon, president of the Korean American Association of Kentuckiana. I want to personally thank you, each and every one of you, for being here, and despite your busy schedules. I arrived here today after visiting the site of the recent shooting in Atlanta, Georgia. Though we may never know the true intention of this senseless violent act, we do know that we need more kindness in this world. We have lost members, our community sisters and brothers. On behalf of the Korean American living in Kentucky, we are here today to assure them, their family, our support. Such violent acts and threats, physical or verbal, do not have a place in our world, and neither does ignorance. Today, we speak out against hatred, discrimination, and violence. We as community can no longer tolerate such behavior. We need to come together as one global community as that start today. Let's be kind to one another so that their deaths are not in vain. Thank you.
Thank you, Hana. I'd like to now invite Thao Tran, who is representing the Vietnamese community today.
Good evening. My name is Thao. I am with the Vietnamese community of Louisville. I also would like to invite my two friends, Oeng and Tam, to come with me so that we can be in this together. So while I represent the Vietnamese community, what I'm about to present are our voices and our opinion. So they do not necessarily represent what our community may believe. There are over 8,000 of us. So from the Vietnamese community of Louisville to the families and victims of Atlanta shooting, we send our deepest sympathy and warmest condolences. Words alone are insufficient to express the sadness and anger we feel towards their death. May you find some comfort in knowing that you are not alone. Our entire community is grieving with you on your devastating losses. In Miss Kim, age 69, Miss Park, age 74, Miss Yu, age 63, we see our own mothers. These strong, resilient women made the ultimate sacrifice to leave everything they knew behind and come to a new land in hopes of providing better opportunities for their families. They worked hard every day in unglamorous jobs without complaints. They deserve to spend their golden years surrounded by loved ones and to enjoy the fruits of their labor. In Miss Grant, age 51, Miss Tang, age 49, Miss Fong, age 44, Miss Yuan, age 33. We see ourselves, our sisters, and our friends. These smart, capable women started businesses, they created jobs, and added to the richness of our cultural fabric. They shoulder heavy burdens of their cultural tradition, responsibilities of extended families, and the daily demands of their careers. They deserve to be praised, to succeed, and to be happy. They did not deserve to die brutally at the hand of a racist murderer. Violence against Asian Americans is nothing new. A few years back, my father, who was 75, he survived 9 years in political prison in Vietnam. He was beaten by a group of teenagers, and he was found by a stranger in a parking lot a few steps from his house. My sister was shocked and terrified when a white man got a pedicure from her just so that he can touch himself, knowing that she was going to be alone. My friend's daughter said from the time she was 6 to 12, classmates poured their eyes and said ching chong and free fried rice, and many more. I can give you so many stories like these. So violence against Asian American is nothing new. It's just amplified by the pandemic and the political climate. So we've been approached and asked what can be done to prevent this from happening in the future. And I think the burden of dismantling an entire system of racism should not only fall on those that are oppressed, it should be on all of us together. So to our elected officials, know that your words have the power to influence positive changes. or it can hurt. So I hope you use them wisely. We need your commitment to create diverse and inclusive programs and policies. We ask that you take a strong stance against hate in all its form. To our friends and our allies, speak up against racism when you see them. A harmless joke, a sly remark, can fester into something ugly and deadly. We hope you take the time to listen and to allow space for our voices when we're hopeful and happy, as well as when we're hurt and when we're angry. We hope you take the time to befriend someone who looks, speaks, lives, worships, and votes differently from you. And most importantly, we hope you teach your children love. And then to our fellow Asian Americans, it is long overdue that we challenge the model minority myth. It is time we speak up and to advocate for ourselves, have difficult yet necessary conversations among ourselves and with our children, report racist behaviors, engage civically and politically, be at the table where decisions are being made. We need a reality that is not racist towards anyone, Black, brown, Latinx, all persons of colors, and not just Asians. And finally, to Robert Long and others like him, we are not responsible for your fucking bad day.
Wow. Thank you, Tao. I'd like to invite Joel Buno to say a few words about the Crane House Asia Institute.
Good evening. Happy second day of spring, everyone. It's a beautiful day. First off, a big thank you to State Representative Nima Kulkarni for spearheading this vigil in such short notice. Thank you, Nima. You deserve it. Thank you. Also, thank you, community partners and friends, for joining us as we collectively honor the victims of the recent Atlanta area shootings. It is during these times that we, as a community, need to learn how to heal together and learn from the recent uptake of Asian and Asian American Pacific Islander violence. Everyone in our community deserves to be safe. What I have learned is that words have consequences. Asians and Asian Americans, we are not a virus, but have been a big contributing force to the United States since the mid-1800s. I hope you all join me in condemning any form of xenophobia and in honoring those we lost in Georgia. We can't say their names enough. Soon Chung Park, age 74. Hyun Jung Grant, age 51. Soon Sha Kim, age 69. Young Yu, age 63. Delana Ashley Yon, age 33. Paul Andres Michael, age 54. Zhao Ji Tan, age 49. And Dao Yang Feng, age 44. Let's live our lives well and mitigate any further incidences of Asian hate. Thank you.
Thank you, Joel. I would like to now invite to the podium my friend and colleague, State Representative Attica Scott, who more than anyone fully understands the importance of solidarity between all of our communities if we are ever to truly move forward without leaving anyone behind.
Peace and blessings. This is hard. I feel like our communities stay in mourning. We're always mourning someone's death. I stand before you with a heavy heart. On Wednesday, the day after the horrific shootings in Georgia, my daughter asked me if there were any events planned in Louisville to honor the hate crimes victims. I didn't know, so I reached out to my colleague and friend, Representative Kulkarni, to ask her if she was aware of any planned events. She wasn't, and so she immediately got to work pulling together today's solidarity action. So love on Rep. Kulkarni again, please. She's our first ever and only Asian immigrant serving in our state legislature, and I know it's not easy for her at all. This is family. This is what it looks like to be deeply rooted in community and to be accountable to one another. While we may not all be in this together, because we are not, it's our community getting killed. We will get there together if we center equity and fairness and freedom and justice for all of us. When my daughter, my dear friend Shamika Parrish-Wright, and her daughter Damiana and I went to Atlanta to canvass for a better future for all of us, we were doing so for our Asian siblings as well. I'm here because we have a long call to action ahead of us to end white racial hatred and violence. We keep giving white people excuses. They had a freaking bad day. We take them to Burger King to get food after they kill people in their churches. Language is a place of struggle, and it can be deadly. When our elected officials marginalize people with their words, when our elected officials rile up their base with the derogatory language and racial prejudices and stereotypes, we find ourselves crying out against violence directed at people who are Black, Indigenous, Latinx, and today, Asian. I'm tired of it. And I'm not taking it. I didn't take it yesterday. I'm not taking it today, and I'm not taking it tomorrow. And I have no interest in your oppression Olympics. We are dying. No one is dying any worse than anybody else. We are all dying. And so it matters that you say their names. Thank you to everyone who has said their names. Miss Tan and I were the same age. It's important that I stand here as a Black woman in solidarity with my Asian siblings in Louisville, across Kentucky, throughout the United States, and around our globe. When our communities are under attack, we feel it globally. We experienced it with the murder of Breonna Taylor, when people in parts of South Africa reached out to us and asked, what in the hell is going on, and what can we do to help? Today, I hold close my students that I taught in China in 2015, who hope to one day visit the United States. Hopefully, we will become a country that they can visit and feel safe and not fear white violence and racial hatred. Hopefully, we will become a country that welcomes our neighbors. Hopefully, we will become a country that is the beloved community. But we're not that yet. But we will get there. Until then, let's reject the notion that our lives must revolve around the needs of white men and their comfort. Let's not allow this Women's History Month to be marred by angry white men who believe that everything in this world is theirs for the taking, including our lives. So when you leave here today, I hope that you will support Representative Kulkarni, who's going to be filing a resolution in Frankfurt denouncing the hate crimes in Georgia. I hope that you will tell your state rep to sign on as a co-sponsor. Stop giving your politicians free passes. Show your children and the young people in your life what it means to be actively anti-racist. Don't just talk about it, be about it. Yes. Share messages of change. Share messages of disrupting whiteness. And let's move together in love, community, and solidarity.
Thank you, Representative. We are honored here today to have with us the Reverend Charles Elliott, who will lead us in a prayer for peace and understanding. If anybody's wondering, I'm wearing white today in solidarity with our Asian and South Asian communities across Georgia, Kentucky, and the country, because white is what we wear in most Asian cultures in times of grief and in times of loss. And I will present to you now Reverend Charles Elliott from King Solomon Baptist Church to lead us in a blessing to end our program. Thank you.
Just before I pray, let me say I am excited and thankful to God to see this event where we got all colored and all races together. I was born in Wheeler, Alabama, where you got to get off the sidewalk to let white people by. 53 years ago in Memphis, Tennessee, hate took Dr. King away from us. Over 2,000 years ago, hate took Jesus away. The answer to hate, how to solve hate is love. Love will get rid of it, not speeches, but when we start to loving each other, treating one another like we want to be treated, that'll solve the problem. Love is like light to darkness. Darkness will never be able to stay around when you got light. Love will get rid of hate. I heard Wallace told us that we would never walk in a school that is integrated, but Dr. King told him, never is too long, Wallace, and found out that the one he didn't let go into school wound up being a black gal, the principal of that school. Love will do it, y'all. And let's come together, brothers and sisters, and love each other. God, we thank you for this gathering. We are aware of the fact that you take events to bring us all together. So we come to tell you thank you for bringing us together, all races and all denominations. We thank you how you done it. And we're going to give you the praise. As we leave here, we're going to ask you to bless all of our elected officials. And then God help us to put in office people that really love one another. And we can do that by going to the poll and voting. We thank you now. We love you and praise you. In the name of Jesus, who is Christ the Lord. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend, and thank you everyone for being here today to show our support, our sympathy, and our solidarity with our Asian communities in Georgia, in Kentucky, and throughout our nation. As Representative Scott said, let us all move in unity, in compassion, and in understanding, knowing that hate will not be tolerated and has no place in the future that we must work to shape together. If you haven't already done so, I would direct your attention to the station towards the back near the bridge, where you can write messages of solidarity and sympathy to our sisters and brothers in Georgia during this devastating time in their lives. Thank you all for being here, and let's move together in solidarity against hate of all kinds. I appreciate it. Have a good evening.
Tell me why is it so important? So thanks for joining me today. Still on my Facebook live stream ban, so I had to upload. Down here at the Big Four Lawn, the waterfront. This event, solidarity, the Asian community. After what happened in Atlanta recently. Thanks for watching. Until next time.